Hello and thanks for joining us. I'm Laurel Hess and this is Comcast Newsmakers. Joining me now is the Executive Director of the Workforce Intelligence Network of Southeast Michigan, Lisa Katz. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
And you come bearing good news, correct? Job, I guess, not performance, but demand is better than it's ever been, at least in many, many years.
Yes, well, what we are seeing, we've been seeing consistent job demand in Southeast Michigan in terms of job postings. And when we looked at the third quarter of 2014, we continued to see strong job demand. Not as high as we maybe saw a year ago, but stronger than historic levels than we've been seeing in the recession. And I think the really big news item for us is that employment, the number of people who are actually in jobs, has been growing, but even better is that the number of people who are actually going into the labor force is beginning to rebound. Because we'd lost so many jobs and people were so down about the economy for so long, a lot of people left our economy, left the workforce. And what we saw in the most recent report was that we had the highest number of people who were employed since December of 2008, which was, of course, right before right in the midst of the recession, really.
Are there any particular jobs or fields that are sort of leading the way where we see more demand than in other areas?
Yeah, we typically see demand in our technical fields, really high demand in places like information technology and healthcare, advanced manufacturing and engineering. We always see things like retail and hospitality being really strong, but I think the important message is that we need more people in those technical fields, and that's really where employers are struggling to find talent and where we're seeing the most postings.
So then what do we do? How do we sort of, kind of feed that talent pipeline, if you will? Should we be talking to folks in middle schools, high schools, colleges, and encouraging folks to go into certain career paths?
That's what we really need to do. When we look across the country, we're seeing a lot of jobs crises in areas where our economy really depends on a technical workforce. And it's happening in Michigan, it's happening around the country, and if we can do a better job of attracting young people, older people, middle-aged people into these technical fields, the better off our economy is going to be, the more competitive we're going to be. We're working very closely with a lot of strategic partners in Southeast Michigan to really encourage young people to move in fields like IT and in advanced manufacturing. We are going to be setting off a project where we're really engaging employers directly in the schools themselves and directly with kids so that kids can see firsthand what these jobs are and hopefully become more interested in them in the future.
And I would imagine a lot of the high-tech jobs do not necessarily require a 4 or a 6-year advanced degree. Many of them, if you know proactively what you're going to do and there's a big demand out there, you may be able to go to trade school for a couple of years, not rack up a whole lot of debt, and end up getting a job right away, being highly in demand, and being able to make a good income.
That's exactly right. I mean, I think a lot of people think that they need to go into post-secondary education and figure it out from there. And I think what we're trying to promote the idea of is that post-secondary education is really important, but there are a lot of jobs that don't necessarily require a 4-year degree right now, and that people should consider maybe looking at going into one of those occupations. And if they have aspirations for post-secondary attainment, think about, could you start off in what they call a middle skill job and maybe work your way up over time into those other occupations.
Especially if there's a big demand out there now and you could just land yourself a job. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Today's Comcast Newsmaker was Lisa Katz, the Executive Director of the Workforce Intelligence Network of Southeast Michigan.